Jeffrey Epstein was performing what he was the atrocious crime that he was doing with the assistance of Ghislaine Maxwell. And all these people were around him. And it's very difficult to believe that they didn't kind of know what was going on. I mean, even Donald Trump said that Jeffrey Epstein's a man of my own heart. He loves beautiful women, only he likes them rather young.
Newly released court documents have linked Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, and amazingly, Professor Stephen Hawking and another 170 other people to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. No new major allegations appear in the files, and in fact, the majority of the names, of course, are not accused of any wrongdoing. The Duke, who is accused of groping a woman, continues to assert his innocence. The files were released as part of a legal case against Epstein's ex-girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's serving 20 years in prison for sex trafficking. Joining me now is Nigel Cawthorne, who is the author of Prince Andrew, Epstein and the Palace. Welcome to the show, Nigel.
Good afternoon.
Very good to see you. In fact, I saw you on Good Morning Britain this morning. You've got an end. I was in the studio, not that I made much impact. Now tell us, what are these documents? What are the relevance of these documents?
Well, these documents come from a court case in 2015 when Virginia Giuffre first started talking about her abuse by Jeffrey Epstein and the trafficking of Ghislaine Maxwell. Ms. Maxwell responded by calling Virginia Giuffre a liar, so Virginia sued for libel. The court case, as depositions were taken, it dragged on for just over a year. Ghislaine Maxwell eventually settled for an undisclosed sum of money. We could only assume it was a large sum of money, and the court papers were sealed. However, the Miami Herald has been pursuing this story from the beginning and have been petitioning for the court cases the sealed papers to be opened. A judge in New York recently decided that as most of the people named in the papers had already been named in the public media, that there was no point in keeping these papers sealed anymore, and so has therefore opened them.
And so what does one make of new names, as it were, that we've never associated before with someone like Jeffrey Epstein? So like Stephen Hawking, for example, is not a name you expect to see in the same sentence.
Well, if you read my book, he was certainly named there.
Oh, well, there you go.
It's very different. After Jeffrey Epstein was originally convicted of sexual offences in 2008, he tried to redeem his reputation, and he took a great deal of interest in science and had a conference in the Virgin Islands where Stephen Hawking was invited. But it's very difficult to imagine Stephen Hawking frolicking with underage girls.
And that's the same for other names that have cropped up, like David Copperfield, the magician, for example.
Indeed, even with Bill Clinton, there's been no allegations made against him. The only person named in the documents that I've come across so far, of course, is Prince Andrew.
And I think there's an allegation about Prince Andrew that appears in the documents, but that's one that's already been aired before. I mean, this doesn't move anything on in terms of the association with Prince Andrew with Jeffrey Epstein.
No, that's true. The woman who made the allegation has already run out of time to take any legal action over the matter. The deadline was about a month ago, so that's not going to go anywhere.
So you wrote your book 3 years ago, when a lot of the names, as you pointed out, that have been released today were already included in your book. There's nothing in these documents that's going to particularly make you rethink your thesis in any way or move it on in any way.
Indeed not. I mean, the only interest here for people in this country is that recently we've seen efforts by the royal family and Prince Andrew to kind of redeem his public image, and it's obviously going to besmirch it again. I don't know whether there's any opportunity here for Scotland Yard to step in. 3 times they've under Cressida Dick, they decided not to investigate Virginia Giuffre's allegations against Prince Andrew. Maybe now with the new Chief Constable, they can try again.
But one of the interesting things you said this morning was that in this list of names, there will be the names of some victims who may not have been perhaps in the public domain before. Is that the case, that there may be some victims named here, and they may in fact be victims who then, because they're in the public domain, may be encouraged to make their own allegations?
Indeed, that may well be the case, because in cases like this, it's frequently known that people do not step forward because of the sheer embarrassment of the situation, and once they've been named, they may well seek some sort of legal redress. Also, that there were other assistants of Ghislaine Maxwell who've so far escaped prosecution, and there may be action in those cases too.
Oh, that's a point, isn't it? Because obviously Epstein was prosecuted; he killed himself in prison. Ghislaine Maxwell's been prosecuted, but no one else has actually been charged with anything.
Indeed, that's the case. The case against Prince Andrew in the United States was a civil case which he settled.
So this is not necessarily the end of the matter then? This is not a kind of closing chapter of this desperate, sad, terrible saga?
Well, it's not. I don't think it's a closing chapter. Even it's the beginning of the closing chapter, possibly. But it's now becoming obvious that Jeffrey Epstein was performing what he was the atrocious crime that he was doing with the assistance of Ghislaine Maxwell. And all these people were around him. And it's very difficult to believe that they didn't kind of know what was going on. I mean, even Donald Trump said that Jeffrey Epstein is a man of my own heart. He loves beautiful women, only he likes them rather young. He kind of knew what was going on. And of course, Mr. Trump is not particularly innocent in that area as well, because he runs a thing, part of his beauty pageants, he runs Miss Teen America, and often stumbles into the dressing rooms while the contestants are changing.
Anyway, thank you very much. We should obviously make it absolutely clear that Prince Andrew denies all the allegations against him. That was Nigel Cawthorne, who is the author of Prince Andrew, Epstein and the Palace, coming on to talk about the release of the files from the Virginia Giuffre case, which have been, the redacted files have been made public overnight.